Today is a good day. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with the commissioner, the head honcho, if you will, Mark Noonan from the Canadian Premier League. Mark, how are you today?
Hey Keith, it's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me on. Really excited. We're counting down the days until we kick off our seventh season. Hard to believe, but here we are, and more excited than ever.
Absolutely. And it's so crazy when you say it, seventh season, it feels like it's been longer, but in a good way, because the level of passion that this league has generated, you wouldn't think it's still in its infant stages, but to some extent it is. So I guess before we jump into like the upcoming season, before we jump into the passion of the amazing fans coast to coast, let's start with you. How in the world does this wonderful man before me become the commissioner of the Canadian Premier League? Tell me about your story.
Wow. I don't know if it's that interesting, but I was a washed up player and decided after too many knee surgeries, to get into the business. I've had a huge passion for the sport of soccer, even though I've worked in and out of soccer my entire career. But it's always been my passion. And after a lot of years in the sports business, this opportunity came up almost 3 years ago now. And I couldn't say no. I'm lucky that the board of governors decided I was the right person for the job, because there's nothing but massive potential for the sport in this country. And when you think about the raw materials of the playing talent we have in Canada, you think about the participation rates being 2 to 1 over hockey these days. When you think about the immigrant profile and how that is changing. The sport of the now and the future in Canada is soccer.
I love that. I love that. So as we
Yeah.
drift into this upcoming season, like what are some of the things that you're really excited about as we get ready to kick off the 2025 campaign?
What I'm excited about is to see how our teams have built their rosters in the off season, because it all starts with the product. You can do everything, but you can't fake your product. And our product gets better and better every year. And a lot of it is because we're growing this young Canadian talent and giving that Canadian talent an opportunity to showcase itself. And when you think about what Ottawa has done in this off season, they're really leaning into that and signing Sergei Kozlowski, and as part of our exceptional young talent rule, and bringing him in, and you're going to give him the opportunity to play games of consequence against grown men and to really test his talent in ways that he never had the opportunity to do so before. And so I'm most excited about what's happening on the field, but also, we're a sports business, and so we have to pay a lot of attention to what's happening off the field. And that's another reason why I love Atletico Ottawa, because the group has done a phenomenal job of forming a great football culture. And
Mhm.
one of the challenges that we've had in the past years is our cameras, television cameras, unfortunately faced away from from the crowd. And we have made an investment this year to change that. And so we're actually going to be shooting our cameras into the crowd. So all of Canada is going to be able to see the amazing experience that your supporters are having there, and the great atmosphere that takes place at an Atletico Ottawa match. So we're really excited to announce that.
That is fantastic, Mark. Breaking some amazing news here. I love that. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. That's very exciting because to your point, at TD Place, the all the fans are on one side, the south side. So the way the camera was shot previously, you'd be looking at this and thinking, I hear noise. I hear a lot of noise, but where's it coming
Yeah.
from? So that's great news to hear. Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, when you think about like in terms of what success would look like for you, obviously this is a very successful league, but when you think about at the end of 2025, if we were to jump in and through the crystal ball, what are some of the goals that you're working towards? Like what do you want to see as accomplished this season?
Again, it starts with the quality of play on the field. We want to see that the quality of play is getting better. The value of our players is getting better. Last year we were incredibly close to knocking our MLS friends out of the Canadian Championships. Forge did knock CF Montreal out of this competition, and both Forge and Cavalry didn't advance because of the away goals rule, which is one we're not big fans of, but they were
Hmm.
incredibly competitive. And we want to take the next step in that competition. Our clubs were highly respectable in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is our equivalent of the Champions League in our region. And we need to continue along that path. We've seen great increases in attendance and sponsorship, both locally and national. This year, you've seen that we are taking our games to a broader platform, not just on One Soccer, which is the home of soccer in Canada, but also we're partnering with TSN to put a number of games on TSN and broaden the exposure for our sport. So it's all the metrics you care about on the field and off the field, continuing to move in the right direction. I get asked a lot about what is CPL, and I explain it in this way: is that in the world of FIFA, we are the exact same as the English Premier League, the German Bundesliga, Major League Soccer, Liga MX. We're just a lot younger, and you give us a little bit of time, and we get a little bit better every single year. We're going to be very incredibly formidable in the years to come.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Um, every sport in the Canadian, or every sport in every league in the Canadian Premier League is no exception to this. Refereeing is always a question mark in terms of, the question in regards to calls and what have you. And of course, this is a question specific like to the league overall. What does the CPL do to maintain consistency in the refereeing year in and year out to make sure that things are being called in one game that they would be called in any other game?
Yeah, I mean it's the hardest job in any sport. I
And
don't
probably the
think
most thankless.
and not probably definitely the most thankless. And the most important thing we're doing is we're giving these men and women reps. We have given thousands of opportunities to referees, just like players, to be able to hone and work on their craft, and they get graded just like a player after every single game, and they get feedback and the sign of a good referee is they get called in to do CONCACAF and FIFA matches, and we've had a number of our officials be able to referee in World Cups and some of the biggest matches that there are. So just like our league, they're developing, and we need to continue to work with Canada Soccer, who actually owns that file, on
Hmm.
improving them and giving them the feedback that we need, as well as work with our clubs and our players to ensure that we are treating these men and women with the utmost respect that they deserve, and honoring the game, because, as I said, it's the hardest thing to do in any sport. And it's funny. Sometimes on a Monday, I'll get a call from two owners that played each other, and there was a pivotal call, and they both were arguing the other side of it. And I'm like, that how does the official win when you have such passion
Yeah.
and two different interpretations of the exact same play?
Hmm.
And so it's a very very hard job, but we're working closely with Canada Soccer to give these officials the reps and the feedback they need to get better.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, when I told people that I was going to be interviewing you because I was very excited about it, the first thing that they
Wow.
said was, wait a minute, you mean Mark Noonan, who was involved with the Ghana Premier League? And I'm like, yes, that Mark Noonan. The number
Yeah.
one question that people wanted me to ask you, do you know what it is?
Uh, is the Ghanaian Jollof better than Nigerian Jollof?
No, as a matter, that was the second question they wanted me to ask you. The first was actually in terms of Keith, can you talk to him about expansion? Now
Yeah.
we have eight fantastic teams in the
Yeah.
Canadian Premier League right now. What are the plans in terms of growing that? Are there initial plans within the
Hmm.
coming within the next year or so? Is it something that we're looking
Yeah.
at down the line? What are the thoughts on expansion?
Yeah. We're not going to expand to Ghana as much as I love it. And to answer the question, Ghanaian jollof rice is better than Nigerian, but it does. I think the Nigerians would argue the other way.
Okay.
But yeah, we're working really hard on expansion. We need to increase our footprint. We need to increase the size of the league. We've said the goal is to double the size of the league by 2032, and we're going to be very thoughtful and intentional about it. We've learned the hard way that you need to have the right conditions to be successful. That's facility, that's having a great owner, a municipality who really wants you there, the great local soccer support, great corporate support. You've got to put this puzzle together. And in Canada, it's quite hard, particularly from a facilities standpoint. But we're very bullish about where we are in expansion. Last year, we created something called CPL on Tour, where we took a regular season match between Calgary and Vancouver FC to Kelowna, BC,
Mm.
to test the market. And we had one of the biggest crowds the Apple Bowl has ever seen there. And we are working closely with that community to potentially bring a CPL franchise there. Later this week, I can't spill the beans yet, but we're going to announce a new on tour location. And we're going to do another regular season game on tour to another key expansion market. But we need to be very thoughtful about it. There's some people who think we should expand in 26 because of the World Cup. But the 26 is also challenging because so much of the attention will be on the World Cup. Are we better off announcing in 25 and then launching in 27 some
Mhm.
new franchises? And that's what we're contemplating right now. But highly confident that we're going to expand this league to some great Canadian cities and continue growing our footprint across the great country. And the beauty of that, it gives more players, more administrators, more referees opportunities to live their dream in Canada.
I love that. I love that. Now, of course, I'm here based in Ottawa, so
Mhm.
very loyal to Atletico Ottawa,
Mhm.
but very loyal to this league. This is a very exciting
Yeah,
league.
thank you.
When I look at this league, when I first of all, when I look in terms of Ottawa, I'll say something that I've said many times, but you might have not heard me say, is that there's a lot of different sports teams here. We've got from the CFL perspective, we've got the
Mhm.
Red Blacks, NHL, we've got the Senators. I can go on and on and on. We've got the Ottawa Charge and the PWHL, and which is a very entertaining, and we've got Ottawa Rapid, the women's soccer league that's going to be
Mhm.
or soccer team that's going to be joining the whole TD environment, TD Place environment this year. But one of the
Yeah.
things that I've said and I still maintain is from an entertainment perspective, from a perspective of people being involved and invested in the game, you can't do better than Atletico Ottawa. You don't have people walking the concourse distracted. However many people are fitting into that stadium for a particular game are all locked in. Pretty much everybody's in an Atletico jersey, so obviously merchandise sales are doing very well. And when you look around the league, this isn't, I don't think, a specific to Ottawa thing. When you look at, not to say that our fans aren't special, they are, but when you look around the
Yeah.
league, people who are going to these games are very, very invested and very passionate about it. And again, we're talking about a league that's coming into its seventh season. Some teams don't really have that level of passion that have been around for significantly longer. What do you think is the secret sauce that have so many Canadian fans so incredibly invested in this product?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. There's something about football culture that is really unique and different. And also with the sport, there's not a lot of timeouts in our sport.
Hmm.
The whistle blows and you play for 45 minutes and then you take a quick 15-minute halftime. You know you're going to be in and out in 2.5 hours. So you really have to focus on what's happening on the pitch. The other thing I think that particularly Atletico Ottawa has done a great job is being a club for the community. When you think about things like what they do with Maple Lodge Farms for food insecurity, or the pay what you can for their home opener, and really trying to use the privileged platform that we have to do good things for the community and do that year in and year out. And then it's being able to see this young Canadian talent kind of right before your eyes. And you guys are going to be really excited to see Noah Batney, one of our great young Canadian defenders who you signed as a free agent in the offseason, and pairing him with Tier Walker and some of the young talent that this group has signed. I mean, that's why you support your local, played in Canada, made in Canada, and you support your local club. I know you're a Man City fan. I'm an Arsenal fan, but that I can't go to an Arsenal game without jumping on a plane across the Atlantic. But I can go to my local club and
Yeah.
really see the players. And maybe one day, one of these kids will be playing for Atletico Madrid or Arsenal or Man City. And that's
Mhm.
the beauty of our game. It is such a global sport.
No, absolutely. And you kind of touched on something I wanted to ask you, which is something I'm very passionate about, is that you must be so incredibly proud to see so many of the different players taking part in all these wonderful community events. One of the most touching moments I remember here in Ottawa was Ollie Bassett, who used to play for Atletico, had a very nice moment when he was walking out to the pitch with a young fan, and the young fan you could see was just talking his ear off, and the two of them ended up forming a very nice relationship, and Ollie would go and visit him and his family, and these are the types of things that kid is going to take with him throughout his life, and he is always going to be passionate about this sport because he got to have such a priceless moment, and there
Yeah.
are tons of those moments that aren't necessarily always captured on camera, but I think a lot of your players are not only just great on the pitch, but from my perspective, even more so importantly, fantastic ambassadors off of the pitch, which is not only a great representation for their teams and for the league, but just I guess not to sound cheesy, but humanity overall, because we need that.
Yeah, no doubt. Our guys are so approachable and they do so much work in the community. And that kid doesn't know that Ollie Bassett isn't Lionel Messi, and he doesn't
Right?
care.
Yeah,
This is Ollie.
exactly.
He's in my community. He's wearing my kit. He's from here. He can come to my practice. I can see him play every week, and that's the fact of what we're bringing. We're giving that kid a dream to be able to one day and grow up and be like Ollie Bassett on and off the field.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I want to ask, are there any special every game's important, every game's
Mhm.
exciting, and these
Mhm.
not to sound cheesy, but every all these eight teams are like your kids, right? So I'm not going to ask you
Yeah.
to pick, but I mean, there are certain games that I'm excited about, even outside of the realm of Atletico Ottawa. One of the games that I'm particularly interested in is when Vancouver plays Pacific. Not only because is that an exciting derby in itself, but we've got Dada Luke, who I thought was an integral part of the Pacific team,
Mhm.
who's now gone over to Vancouver. So when those when those two teams play each other, I will be dialing that up and watching that. Are there any particular games or moments like that you're excited about for the upcoming season?
As you said, I love all my children equally. And, part of what makes soccer such a great sport are these local derbies. And, I mentioned Noah Batney. What happens when he plays York, his former club? And York
Mhm,
has always had, good results against Ottawa. Does this flip the table? And
mhm,
so I love them all. The beauty of our league is every game matters. Last
mhm,
year, 111 out of 112 matches had playoff implications as well as seeding implications. So you can't take a day off in our league
mhm,
because you will get punished because of it. And so you know that the team is not going to mail it in on any day because it has such an incredible impact on where they finish up in playoff seeding as well as competition for the Canadian Premier League Shield for the regular season winner.
mhm. No, absolutely. Okay. Listen, I always want to be respectful of time. We're going to drift into a little thing I like to call rapid fire. These are
Okay.
questions that are meant to be nothing more than fun. So let's have a good time with it. The first question of rapid fire, which has nothing to do with anything we've spoken about today, but is always the first question
Okay.
of rapid fire. What is your favorite movie of all time? And if you can't think of one, I will take a top three.
Well, with my last name, it has to be Caddyshack, right?
All right, there you go. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Okay, question for you. For the last couple of years, the final has come down to Cavalry and Forge. Blink twice if you're hoping another team can get into the final and we have some parity.
As I said, I don't choose favorites. I just hope the best teams end up there, and I think this will be an incredibly highly competitive year. We might have a couple surprises based on what some of the off season activity, and I suspect that your club is going to be in the mix based on the moves that they've made. Drew Becky is such a great amazing player in his own right, but now that he's transitioned to the front office, what he's been doing to develop that club with their sister club San Luis in Mexico and Atletico Madrid and signing a lot of great young local talent and free agents like Abatney, and I think you all should have very high expectations for the upcoming season.
I love that. I love that. What is something, and this could be such a wide range, but what is something that people would be surprised to know about you, Commissioner of the Canadian Premier League, Mark Noonan?
Well, you already hit on the Ghana thing, so that was interesting. I like to consider myself a citizen of the world. I grew up, part of my childhood was in Taiwan. When my family moved, my parents and five kids moved to Taiwan, and I was a very very young man. So I lived and worked in Africa. I lived in the Far East in Taiwan. Now I live in beautiful Canada. So I'd like to consider myself a citizen of the world.
I love that. I love that. Now, one thing that people might not know about you is that you are a national champion. Of course, I'm talking about your time with Duke and the winning the national championship with Duke. Of course, Duke right now is involved in the Final Four. I believe it's the first time in I forget how long that all four number one seeds have made it to the Final Four. Duke, of course, being one of them. Is there any doubt in your mind that your alma mater can win the national championship this year?
It's been a really fun ride, and obviously have some generational talent in Cooper Flag. It's hard to win with kids, and you've got a really experienced team in Houston with a great coach in Calvin Sampson. So we'll see what happens. One of the things you mentioned that my team at Duke won the national championship. It was actually the first national championship in school history in any sport. And we joked that we taught Coach K how to win the big one.
I love that. Take that, Coach
Yeah,
K. All right.
exactly.
Final word to you, my friend. What is
Uh,
the final message that you like to put out there to the fans of the Canadian Premier League as we get ready to kick off the 2025 campaign?
Thank you. Thank you for your support. We can't do it without you. This is the Canadian Premier League. It's not a league that's run out of the New York. This is a league that is, made by Canadians for Canadians, and we greatly appreciate your support. Buy a ticket, bring a friend, cheer really loud, and help us put Canada on the map.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much for the time today. I hope we can do this again this season. Maybe we can pop in a couple of months and do like a mid season update. I love that.
That would be great. I look
Yeah.
forward to seeing everybody when, I make market visits all the time, so I can't wait to see everybody at an Ottawa game.
Excellent. Mark, thanks so much for the time today. Of course, we're speaking to Mark Noonan, CEO sorry, Commissioner of the CEO. I'm giving you new titles here. Commissioner of the Canadian Premier League. Thanks so much for the
Uh,
time and looking forward to seeing you this season.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.